For the third consecutive year, the Overwatch Saudi eLeague makes its grand return. And this time around, it just might be more popular than ever before, in large thanks to the Overwatch League officially being over. The Saudi eLeague is one of the biggest non-Overwatch League tournaments around, and it's going to be one of the biggest tournaments we have before the end of this year. And with all of the big names competing and taking their talents to Saudi Arabia, you don't want to miss out. But some of you may be sitting there asking yourselves, what the heck is the Saudi eLeague, and how do I watch it? Where do I watch it? Who's playing? What's on the line? Well, if you have any of those questions, you've come to the right place. Welcome to an all-extensive guide on the Overwatch Saudi eLeague 2023 Season 2. Here is everything you need to know. Let's begin with the start date. In just a few days from this video, November 20th, it is going live for its first day, and it'll go all the way until December 2nd. And what's extra exciting about this event is that it is LAN. It is an offline tournament being held at the SEF Arena in Saudi Arabia. If you want to know how you can watch, check out the Saudi eLeague YouTube and Twitch channels for a live broadcast of the entire upcoming tournament. Sadly, I don't know if there's any sort of official English broadcast, but you're gonna get the Saudi one for sure, and potentially some co-streaming on the side. I don't really know for sure on that, but it's definitely possible. And I'd also keep an eye on the Saudi esports channels as well, if the league for some reason doesn't stream on its normal channel for whatever reason. For the start time, it's not determined as of this recording, sadly, which is why I highly encourage you to enable notifications on the eLeague channel so you know when the stream starts. For a general estimation though, I'd say around 8 or maybe 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time is highly probable for a start. The previous season of the Saudi eLeague held earlier this year usually had the first game played around 9 o'clock, so if that's any indicator, it'll probably be then, if not close to it, so translate that into whatever your time zone is as necessary. Again though, nothing is set in stone. I don't have the information for this sadly, so just enable notifications just to be safe so you don't miss out on anything. A lot of this stuff is really hard to obtain, so I'm very sorry for the educated guesses here. In terms of the format though, there's going to be 8 teams. These guys all qualified from a 28-team qualifier held online beforehand. And there's going to be a $100,000 total prize pool, with $40,000 going to first place. To arrive at this final destination, this tournament will come in 2 phases. First is the group stage. The 8 teams are going to be separated into 2 separate groups. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, I don't know what those groups are. I don't know who's playing where. We're like 2 days away from this thing, and I just can't find any public information on that. So if you do know anything, I would appreciate it if you could leave a comment down below. I will pin it. But anyway, these groups will be a round robin style, and this round robin will take our number from 8 down to 6, and those 6 will then go on to the final tournament. And the top seed from groups A and B will be rewarded with a first round bye. The playoffs will be double elimination, and the finals is first to 4. Actually, now that I think of it, I believe the winners and losers finals may also be first to 4, which is pretty damn sick. A long format tournament on LAN? I mean, what more could you ask for? The Saudi eLeague is bigger than it ever has been before, and there's a chance that it could seriously blow up. With OWL finished, multiple top-level players have made the trip to Saudi Arabia to kick off a new era of Overwatch esports, and let me tell ya, the rosters are stacked. This tournament is headlined by Twisted Minds, aka the defending EU Contenders champions. Along with that, it's basically most of the Saudi Arabian World Cup roster, plus Yazan, Hadi, and Kelix. This team is beyond loaded. They're simultaneously the best team, but also the most versatile. Just from a comparison standpoint and thinking about their recent accomplishments, they're the obvious favorites to win it all, and it would be a surprise if anybody else takes them down. Most of this team has been dominating the professional scene for quite a bit now. Beating them will be a difficult task. People like Quartz, Majed, and KSA are currently at the top of their game in a meta they just dominated in. But they're far from the only exciting teams in this tournament. They're the favorites, but there's some other fun ones that you'll definitely want to root for. For example, F16 Esports is fielding Merit and someone on their roster, 2 OWL World Champions. But that's not all. They've got Team Saudi Arabia main support player Haku, plus Goku, a reliable DPS who's made a name for himself in the Saudi eLeague and contenders as well. This team is very dangerous, especially because Sigma and Sojourn are still a part of the meta, and Merit and someone literally just led the way to a league championship in this exact setup. If the rest of the roster lets them cook and they hold their own, they might just go all the way. But then again, they weren't perfect in their group qualifier, believe it or not, and it's all thanks to GK Esports. GK managed to beat F16 in a tense 5-map series during the qualifiers, and their team is rocking with Checkmate at DPS, plus Landon and Meeson. For this event, they have one of the best backlines out there, and maybe the top flex DPS in the entire tournament, all on the same team. That's pretty nasty stuff. And considering the strength of double flex support Sigma, this roster has a lot of potential. There's some question marks about some of the newcomers that they have on their team, but when considering that they got a W against a top team like F16, I'd feel pretty confident in them. The 3 teams I just mentioned are likely to be the most popular, but they're far from the only good teams in this tournament despite being the favorites. A dark horse competitor that I would look out for is Fog Esports. Top Dragon, Marvel, and Creative is a sick trio. A solid player on each role gives them balance. Having a reliable playmaker you can trust in so many different places gives them less flaws than arguably most other teams in the tournament. Good team play with so many different players might just override some of the more top-heavy competition out there. These guys are dark horses, and I would not sleep on them. And one other team I'll throw in there that I found likable is ROC Esports. They're kinda underrated from a roster standpoint. Psycho is on the team, who showed he is no pushover after a season on NYXL, and they've got Bernard on there, who showed some great performances recently in the Overwatch League playoffs. He is still an excellent player. And to make things even better, they're one of those teams with some of the more well-known Saudi talent. Madara is a solid hit scan from what I've seen, and with good support around him, he might just elevate his game to the next level. And I'd say that Gara is also a pretty recognizable name, and a decent main support as well. They're maybe not a title favorite, but I'd say the idea of top 4 isn't that far-fetched. Those are probably like the 5 teams or so that stand out the most in terms of name recognition and who you might even consider to be the favorites. The rest have a few names here and there, and then lots of Saudi talent trying to make a name for themselves. A team like Vicious definitely fits that bill. Former OWL Flex support Iris, plus former O2 Blast DPS Proud is a pretty nice combo, but the other guys you may not know as much about. And it's like that for a lot of teams if you look at the Liquipedia page, which I'll leave a link to if you want to check it out. But in general, I mean, there's a lot of fun players making an appearance in the Saudi eLeague, which kind of makes it super exciting. It's going to be cool to watch all of them have interest and continue to compete and see where it goes after this tournament. Again, though, there's also a lot of new players who have a chance to have their time to shine, if you will, maybe even making their potential pro debut on stage. I'm talking a lot of guys with no real resume. They have a chance to build a future here, and who knows? Some of these new players may end up becoming fan favorites who stick around the scene for years to come. I wish I could tell you more about some of these guys, but I genuinely haven't heard of so many of them. I know about as much as the average fan does there, and just like you, I'm excited to see what they have. Not gonna lie though, I'm a little sad, as I think while this bracket is really cool, it should be even more stacked, as we ended up missing out on a really sick roster participating. You see, a team called Falcons participated in the groups, and this team was supposed to have Shy and Spectra as their DPS line. That might have been the scariest damage-dealing duo in the whole tournament. And I don't know, just the idea of seeing Shy continue his career and compete elsewhere sounded really cool. But unfortunately, Shy didn't make it to Saudi Arabia in time. He arrived after the qualifiers were over, and Falcons had an unfortunate forced loss thanks to their substitute player not waking up in time for their match, which costed them second place in their respective group. Oh well though, we've still got a very exciting 2-week tournament on our hands. It's one of the first major tournaments in the post-Overwatch League era, and its success just might pave the way to an interesting future. On the topic of the future, you might want to know what my general expectations and predictions for this event are. Well, there's no reason this shouldn't favor Twisted Minds. They're the team that you have to have taking it home. After dominating EU contenders and the World Cup, their team is on top of the world. And the fact of the matter is, their roster by far has the most talent and generally just have more players than anybody else. A combination of Twisted Minds plus Majed and Hadi is hardly fair. That is a lot of playmakers to deal with. They're just so well-rounded and a lot more versatile than anybody else. Twisted Minds aren't just some top team at a random tournament either. This is one of the top teams in the world, and I'd be very surprised if they came up short. So yeah, all indicators point to Twisted Minds getting first. Maybe not in total blowout fashion, but I'd expect it to be convincing. It's no shade to the other teams, I just think that Twisted Minds have a lot more going for themselves. In my opinion though, the team joining them in the finals will be F16. They're going to be the ones that take home second, as Twisted Minds wins the finals in maybe like a 5 or 6 map series at most. While it's true that F16 didn't even finish first in their group, they barely lost. It was by the skin of their teeth. And just having someone in merit raises your ceiling a ton. We're talking 2 top players in the world, potentially the 2 best at their respective positions. That is not something you're going to be taking lightly, and I'm sure as these 2 get more situated with their living situation, and they have more time to gel with the rest of the roster, that they're going to start to look a lot better as a group. And let me tell ya, if they find a rhythm and they really pop off hard, they just might have a chance of pulling off the ultimate upset. For third place, I'm going with Geek Esports. Geek realistically have a shot of making that finals match too. Sometimes people forget just how good Checkmate really is. Honestly, the same applies to the backline. Landon might be the best bat player in the tournament. The playmaking potential on this team is frankly terrifying, and I'd expect big things. And to round out my top 4, I'll be going with Fog Esports. I like the little trio they've got going on there. If he plays, I think people are going to be reminded of how good Marvel was at Sigma. The man played him at like a grand finals level back in the day, and he's just got some good players by his side. Creative and Dragon are arguably at the top of their game right now. I like this team a lot, and I would not be surprised if they upset one of the favorites. It is very doable. But since they maybe have a little bit less upside and star power, I'm gonna say they finish in the 4 slot. As you can see though, there's a lot of premier talent in this tournament. There's a lot of fun new faces and old ones that we all love. I'm looking forward to watching them all in this journey. This tournament could be a lot of fun, and I think it could lead the way to a future in Saudi Arabian Overwatch esports. Let me know what team you're going to be supporting and who you think is going to win down in the comments below. And if you have any other questions, throw those down too. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. And it would also mean the world to me if you could like this video and subscribe on your way out for more Overwatch esports content just like this. And until the next one, I'm out. Peace.